All right, let's talk about productivity. We're all chasing it, right? We're all trying to squeeze more out of every single day. But what if the big secret isn't about working harder at all? What if it's about working smarter, by getting in sync with our brain's own natural rhythm?
You know that feeling? I'm sure you do. You've been chained to your desk, you've fired off 100 emails, you've jumped between what feels like a dozen different tasks, you are completely drained. But when you finally look back at the day, you can't really point to a single big thing you accomplished. You've been busy for sure, but have you actually been productive?
See, here's the fundamental problem. The whole idea of an 8-hour workday is basically a leftover from the industrial age. It was designed for assembly lines, not for creative or knowledge work. The truth is, our brains are just not wired for 8 straight hours of focus, and when we try to force it, all we get is distraction, exhaustion, and eventually, burnout.
So what if there's a better way? A kind of rhythm that actually works with our biology instead of fighting against it? Well, it turns out there is. And the funny thing is, it wasn't discovered in some fancy lab, but just by watching how the most effective people really work.
Okay, check this out. Researchers at a company called the Dragim Group used a time tracking app to analyze how their employees were spending their days. They were hunting for the secret sauce of their top performers, and guess what? They found it. And it had nothing to do with who worked the longest hours. It was all about how they structured their day.
And the first number they discovered is, well, it's pretty fascinating. Their most productive people weren't working for hours and hours on end. Not at all. They were working in these intense, super focused sprints, just diving deep into one single task without any interruptions, for an average of 52 minutes. But that was only half of the puzzle. After those intense 52-minute work sessions, they did something that might sound totally backward. They completely stopped. They disengaged and took a real, genuine break away from their work for an average of 17 minutes.
And that, right there, brings us to the core idea, the 52-17 method. Now, this isn't just another time management hack you see online. It's really about energy management. It's about respecting the fact that our brains work in cycles, a burst of high performance followed by a very real need to recover. So think of your workday as a series of sprints, not one long, grueling marathon.
So, how do we actually put this into practice? Well, it all starts before you even think about setting a timer. The very first step is to get crystal clear on exactly what you're going to work on during those super valuable 52-minute blocks.
You know, the productivity expert Brian Tracy really nailed it with this quote. That single-minded focus, that's the engine of real achievement. But you can't just stumble into that kind of focus by deciding what to do in the moment. You need a plan. So when that 52-minute timer starts, you should already know exactly what your number one priority is.
A really simple but crazy powerful way to do this is called the Ivy Lee method. Seriously, it's a game changer. At the end of your workday, just take 5 minutes. Write down the 6 most important things you need to get done tomorrow. Then rank them. That's it. The next morning, you don't waste any brain power figuring out where to start. You just start with task number 1. It totally eliminates that decision fatigue and sets you up for a day of pure, focused action. Okay, so you have your plan, you know what you need to do. Now comes the real battle, protecting that time. Because let's be honest, in today's world, a plan without protection is basically just a wish list. You have to actively fight to create an environment where you can actually focus. So you have to ask yourself this question. Is my day defined by being busy or by being productive? Being busy means you're always reacting, jumping on every notification, being available to absolutely everyone, and constantly trying to multitask. But being productive, that's intentional. It's about focusing on one thing at a time, and maybe most importantly, setting really clear boundaries. This means you've got to build what I call a fortress of focus. For those 52 minutes, your phone goes into flight mode. No exceptions. Your email, your Slack, all those extra browser tabs, they get closed. And you might need to tell your colleagues, hey, I'm in a focus block for the next hour, I'll get back to you then. You have to remember, protecting your focus isn't selfish. It's what's required to do your most valuable work. And now we get to the part that almost everyone underestimates, or even skips entirely, the 17-minute break. Let me be really clear here. The break is not optional. It is every bit as important as the 52 minutes of work. This is where your brain recharges, consolidates information, and gets ready for the next sprint. And this slide highlights something that's so critical. The point isn't just to stop working, it's to achieve true mental disconnection. If you spend your so-called break checking your personal email or scrolling through social media, you're not actually resting your brain. You're just swapping one type of mental load for another.
So what does a good restorative break actually look like? It's simple stuff, really. Get up from your desk, walk around, do some stretches, go outside if you can. Chat with a coworker about anything except work. Put on some music, or just sit quietly and let your mind wander for a bit. The goal here is restoration, not more stimulation.
And on the flip side, here's exactly what to avoid. These are the things that feel like a break but are actually just attention traps. Checking email, mindlessly scrolling through your feed, reading stressful news. These drain your cognitive batteries and leave you less prepared for your next focus session. And probably the biggest mistake of all is simply staying put at your desk. All right, let's just zoom out for a second. Adopting this 52-17 rhythm is about more than just a little daily tactic. It's a really smart, strategic response to how the whole nature of work is changing around us.
Think about it. As AI and automation get better and better at handling all the routine, predictable stuff, our value in the workplace is shifting big time. The skills that are becoming priceless are the ones that machines can't replicate: deep, focused thought, creativity, human-centric problem solving. Your ability to do deep work is becoming a modern superpower.
And that's why this matters so much. Working in a way that respects your brain's natural cycles isn't just about getting more done today. It's about making sure you can keep performing at a high level tomorrow and next week and for years to come. It is, frankly, a powerful antidote to the burnout epidemic we're all seeing.
The futurist Bernard Marr really put it perfectly. Of course, we should embrace new tools and technology. But we can't forget that our greatest competitive advantage will always be our uniquely human brain. So, learning how to use it effectively, to focus deeply and then recover fully, is probably the most important skill for future-proofing your career.
So I'll just leave you with this final thought. For so long, we've been obsessed with managing our time, with our calendars and our to-do lists. But what if we've been looking at it all wrong? What if the real key to unlocking our best work isn't about cramming more into our hours, but about finding and then mastering our own personal, sustainable rhythm?